Okay, so now we're recording. So let's run through the rubric. How do you think it went? Let me ask you that first.
So I thought it went okay. I thought it could have gone better. I had my reflection typed out. I don't know if I sent that to you. So there's definitely things in there I'd want to look at. I don't have it pulled up now, but I thought it went well. So my first issue was like I had a few hiccups along the way, and I don't think that was an excuse to not do well. I think that's something I need to learn how to work with. I think that's something I need to work on to figure out how to deal with those like bumps in the road. Because first one was that the materials didn't come in, which happens, and then the next one was that we happened to get new teachers on site that had to come in and observe our lessons so that way they could learn how the program kind of works at school. So I needed to like kind of roll with that a little bit better. I thought that I had a really good ideas in my lesson plan that didn't necessarily come out, which is why it was a little bit difficult when we went through the lesson. It wasn't necessarily a hard lesson way above what they can do, because I've seen what they can do. So I feel like had I prompted questions a little bit better, asked more of the questions I had on my sheet, referenced it more, made sure to start with the video earlier, I think things like that would have helped them go along more smoothly. I think that would have definitely made
Right.
it flow better. I think towards the end of it, they understood the concepts fairly well and they were able to describe things. So in the whole like go home and talk to your parents thing, I think that would probably be pretty well. But
Well,
they seemed a little.
and tell me this. Why do you think that happened? Why do you think at the end it all came together?
I think they had a chance to finally engage in it more instead of like talking. It had been more hands-on, and they finally like saw it, did it, and absorbed it more. So I don't think the full discussion as much as we went into it, especially when I was cutting the video. There was a lot of craft time, but there's also a lot of discussion. And so it looks like it's mostly discussion for the whole class. And I think it was too discussion heavy for them. I think a few examples and hands-on would have made it much more simple, easy, and fun for them.
Okay, good. That's great. Those are great ahas for you. I think in terms of, those hiccups, and that is kind of the teacher's life, and that you have to kind of, plan for the unexpected and know how to punt or how to, reframe everything. Like, how am I going to? And so learning how to be flexible, that comes with experience. It comes with, confidence and kind of knowing your kids and knowing, well, here's an alternative activity or, okay, I had one other question. What what had they seen or heard or known about weather before that lesson?
So we discussed the weather in class, like, oh, how's the weather today? And they can say quite a lot. And they can discuss different kinds of weather. They had come from the same school. Many of them had come from the same school the previous year. And when I talked to the teacher, they seem to have a good foundation of weather, which they've shown. They have an idea of the seasons, which they've shown. And they can usually like show like an ability to connect ideas. Like animals are feeling because it's hot, or like weather, like clothing because of the weather. And they've known a lot about plants. Like we also had a huge topic about plants previously. So I felt like the weather was going to be a good measurement for me in the beginning to see, to make sure. And I think they also were a little bit more confused by seasonal weather than I anticipated. So I think that took a little bit longer than I thought, because I felt like their foundation had been good, but when I felt it out, it wasn't exactly what I thought it was.
So I guess what I meant to ask you is seasons. Had you done any work in seasons other than what they'd gotten at their previous school?
We did. We had previously we had like a huge like month-long thing where we had talked about seasons a bit. We practiced a few songs, but because it was only like one or two classes a week that they got to kind of touch on it, I guess it probably didn't seem as infused for them, or because it was a while ago and they hadn't had a lot of like season practice. They do more like monthly, daily, weekly stuff. That it didn't stick as much with them.
Okay. All right. Well, let me share with you my observations. And what I did is I kind of grouped my observations by the criteria in the rubric. I think that Let's see. Oh, okay. So understanding your learners, I think you have a pretty good sense of who they are. You definitely have a good rapport with them. They were excited and engaged with you in a fun way. So I think you know them. One of the things I wondered is if maybe this lesson wasn't a 2-in-1. Like maybe there could have been work in seasons first, and then a work in what a tree looks like during those seasons, or how things change, how living, organisms change. And so I feel like that could have been maybe broken apart a little bit more.
I certainly agree, by the way. I definitely thought that towards the end of it, because I had thought the seasons would have been like a brief preview, like just a review, and it took longer, and I was like, this definitely turned into 2 lessons. I agree with that. I thought that at the end of it.
And I think one of the things I should say up front is you're going to feel this pressure to get the lesson done, right? And to get through it because it's your recording lesson.
Yeah, that's true.
But don't be afraid to like abandon what you have planned if you see through formative assessment they're not as far along and we need to spend more time on this. Okay. I think that that's just going to take some time. I think, pacing is a big issue for teachers. So, okay. I don't want to make Barry. Is Barry your teacher, right? Barry's your instructor?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to make him look through a 20-minute, 30-minute video here, but okay. One of my other questions was when you were doing the seasons thing, you had the things on the board: summer, fall, winter, spring. Are they readers, and does that need to be accompanied by a picture?
So there was like weather pictures, not like a season matching picture, which now I think back that would have helped, but they do read. They read fairly well now. So when Harry struggled with summer, I was a little confused, but they can read.
Okay. All right. That just was something maybe to think about. Okay. Let's see. The next one is meeting student needs cognitively, linguistically, socially, emotionally, and physically. I feel like your classroom is definitely set up to meet their needs. Physically, they seem to engage with each other appropriately, and you did a redirect that was really swift and it took care of the problem, and that was good. One thing that I noticed is when the boy he thought it was windy and it was snowy. Is he an ELL learner?
Yeah, they all are.
Okay, that's what I thought. He just needed a little more practice on even saying windy, even though it was the wrong word. There was an opportunity there for you to meet his needs linguistically to say, hey, can we practice that word? Windy. That's kind of like whoa, winter, making the connections.
Okay.
So, and then when you were asking them to describe their trees, some of them weren't sure how to do that. They weren't sure how to get that description going. So consider doing like a sentence framing for them, or like a prompt, like my tree is, just giving them that linguistic support. So that they know how to start that, because they're still little. I mean, they're, so, okay, let's see. Sorry, I'm reading through my notes. Okay, readiness for learning. Great job asking some questions and then going back to the video. Like as you were getting them to describe their trees, I think, or at one point you went back to the video and you showed them the trees. And that was just a great job of supporting them again through that concept. Like, remember what we did, connecting that prior knowledge. And so that was really good. Let's see. The video was awesome and it provides support and it was very developmentally appropriate. I wondered if it shouldn't go at the beginning.
I totally should have. So actually my initial plan was to start with that. And for some reason I had like so many brain farts during this lesson. And if I had followed my lesson plan a little bit more how I wrote it, which had said do the video first, I think that would have certainly helped.
Yeah, I think they just need that initial, like song and repetition, chant, that like kind of settles them. It gets them kinesthetically and visually involved, and then it, and through music. But okay.
I agree.
So the video was developmentally appropriate. You were checking for understanding, like, why is the tree pink? So you were checking for understanding. That was good. Using the video, I think they were still a little bit confused even after that with the leaves. And so I think that might have needed a little more scaffolding.
I agree. I think it should have been separated, like more on seasons had I realized sooner that they struggled, and then done that in a couple lessons, and then moved on to the tree one probably in a couple lessons. So
Yeah.
I think that would have helped them more.
Remember always that they are learners who they don't really, that the abstract for them, it has to be really rooted in concrete. So when you see that they made the tree and all of a sudden the light bulb went off for them, that's why, because that was a concrete, they could see it tactily, they could work with it in their hands. And the fact that it was in a circle, like I kept thinking throughout the lesson, there needs to be some kind of circular response so that they see that this is something that happens over and over again. It's a cycle. Like that cycle was part of what was, I think, missing, because they're not abstract at this age. They're very concrete. So they needed to see that winter, spring, summer, fall, and kind of how it, do you understand what I mean by that?
Oh, that's so funny. No, I agree. And I actually cut that part out of the video. There was a small moment when I showed them the picture. I'm like, winter, and then what? And someone said autumn. I'm like, and go back again? And then someone said spring, and I said, yes, it goes like
Good. Good. I'm glad you
Yeah.
told me that. Okay. I felt like the go home and tell your parents was a great prompt for them, because it connects their learning to their home. And so that was really good. Did anyone do it? Do you know if anyone went home and did it?
Sorry, you froze for a second. Oh no, my internet. Jeez. Okay. Hold on. I think it's still connected. Okay.
I can hear you.
Perfect. No, I was trying to think about a way to have them do it, and something that wasn't more homework, because they already do some writing homework. I didn't want it to feel heavy. And so I was hoping that would work. And when they said that they like had come back and tried it, I was super stoked. So
good. Yeah, it was the perfect way, and it made it fun. I just think while it was kind of bumpy at the beginning, it really did come together at the end, which is evidence that you had the objective. You just getting there took you a little zigzaggy at times. And it's okay to slow down and say, oh, okay, we need to go back over. But if you can constantly in the back of your mind be thinking concrete, because abstract is really hard for them. So we have to do so much concrete to bridge the abstract. And even then, we have to keep bringing it back to them. Like, that's why in seasons so much is done with, like, what kind of clothes do you wear? Because it makes it about them, and they're so egocentric at that age, right? So
yeah, it's true.
And then just the linguistic part, I think, as you're working with those ELLs, like giving them those sentence structures that they can use when you're giving them an open-ended question will be good.
I agree. Yeah, I need to do that a little bit more. I try to give them pieces, and I try to correct them as they go to like allow for more creativity. But I do need to remember that they do need a lot of structure now. I see some of them just like repeating phrases, but I need to remember there's nothing really wrong with that. That's how they're going to start. And so they can build the creativity later.
Yeah, I just watched actually a candidate who's teaching high school who did that with, this is so because, like, he gave them the sentence starter, and he didn't fill in all the blanks, but he gave them a place to start from, which I think is so important. And they could even do that collectively as a group, like, my tree is brown, and the season is, and then they could practice it individually. Once you got that going, they were really eager to share, and I loved when they all held up their tree, because then it became much more engaging for them. So the tree was the key. So yeah, good job.